The vast land is empty. But when you brave stepping into this unknown land, a story half as long as time awaits you. The long-time owners welcome the weary traveler. And the watercourse that continues perilously teaches about the mysteries of living. Nature, which has etched the traces of time upon itself, asks entirely new questions of us and reveals legends and myths like mirages. A place that shows its treasures only through those who seek them. Today, I am headed towards Jordan, a country full of stories. Jordan is an Arab kingdom in the north of the Arabian Peninsula in West Asia. It is one of the origins of the world's oldest civilization. Around 300 kilometers south of the capital city of Amman lie the remains of that ancient civilization. Deserts and grasslands await you wherever you go. Most of the land in Jordan is barren and cannot be inhabited. But there is a splendid civilization in the barren land. Today I will meet its people and listen to their stories. The first stop on my itinerary is Wadi Rum. One must enter via the designated route because of the many archaeological remains found here. I visited Jordan for the first time 5 years ago. I came armed with just a camera, but ended up staying for 4 months. My visit lasted much longer than planned because I was drawn strongly to the landscape, the likes of which I had never seen before. This rock mountain rising up before me is a prime example.
멀리서 보면은 낮아 보이긴 하는데 가까이 가보면 상당히 높거든요. 200~300m씩 되는 봉우리들이 많다고 하니까 뭐 상당히 힘들 수도 있지만 재미도 있을 것 같아요.
The Wadi Rum Desert, Valley, and Rock Mountains were created millions of years ago through plate movements, weathering, and erosion. An area the size of the city of Busan is designated as a mixed UNESCO World Heritage Site.
와, 멋있다.
These rock mountains that were once under the sea symbolize inestimable time. The name of this desert, Wadi Rum, was given by those who were deeply impressed by the rock mountains.
지금 풀이된 말로는 기둥이 있는 계곡이라는 뜻인데 이 높이 솟아있는 이 돌산들이 기둥의 역할을 하기 때문에 와디람이 기둥의 계곡이라고 말을 표현을 해도 굉장히 적당한 표현 같아요. 다른 별에 와 있는 것처럼 굉장히 이색적이고 현실에서 볼 수 없었던 그런 풍광이어서 굉장히 좋습니다.
Different people must have passed by the pillars of time during different ages. But what would have brought them to the desert? I followed their footsteps into the desert, but could not find any trace of them in the sand. The sand, moving wherever the wind blows, had erased their traces from the desert.
다른 모래들은 좀 밑으로 떨어지는데 이거 살짝만 대놓고 있어도 바람이 날아간대요.
A truck that seems at home in the desert comes into view. the truck seems to wrestle with the desert. It speeds over the sand, creating a sandstorm behind it.
모래 위를 차가 붕붕 날아다니는 것 같아요. 거의 군중을 타고 날아가는 손오공 같은 느낌인데요.
The car stopped in front of me after it was done with its tricks.
أنا بدوي أم بدوي
طب أنت البدو بيركبوا جمال أنت راكب
أجدادنا وأبانا ركبوا الجمال وركبوا الخيل وعلمونا ركوب الجمال وركوب الخيل برضو بس إحنا في عام 2013 والعصر الحداثة يعني هاي جمال الشباب البدو اللي هي السيارات ال 4x4.
I decided to enjoy a drive in the desert, like the Bedouin who cleverly maneuvered the 4x4 like a camel. There is no time for me to be bored, as the scenery of Wadi Rum keeps me occupied. This rock mountain tells the story of a Bedouin youth who jumped from a cliff for his beloved. The youth bravely broke with custom to prove his love in front of many people. The appearance of the mountain is as surprising as the story.
정말 대단합니다. 마치 산이 아니라 평평한 돌판 위에 덩치 큰 외계인이 손으로 자기네 언어 글씨를 조각한 것 같은 느낌이에요. 뭔가 뜻이 있을 것 같고 그들만의 이야기가 있을 정도로 뭔가 굉장히 의미 있는 모양을 갖추고 있어요.
While nature was busy forming the side of these rock mountains, humans left their traces in the deep valleys.
في نقوش هون عربية قبل 700 سنة وهي في نقوش هون قبل 3000 سنة ثمودية النقوش هاي قديم.
This desert path was the biggest trade route in the ancient kingdom.
와, 보인다, 보인다.
It might be that a Bedouin saw the Arabian merchants on camels, burdened with baggage, passing by the king's path connecting the north and south, and depicted the caravan here. The Bedouin were the owners of the desert since 6 BC.
다른 동물이 있어요. 여기 있고 다리가 4개 있고.
The anthropologist Levi Strauss said that no one could beat the Eskimos and Bedouin when it came to surviving in harsh weather and geological conditions. As if to prove this, the Bedouin live as nomads in the middle of the desert. I am on my way to meet them.
예, 아무래도 이곳은 사람이 살지 않는 곳이고 아주 소수의 베두인만 사는 지역이기 때문에 아무래도 베두인들만 다니는 흔적이 남아있는 것 같아요.
All of the splendors of the past remain only in stone carvings. But why are the Bedouins still living in the desert? Would I find the answer if I met them? The Bedouin I met after an hour and a half in the car guided me to his home, as if he had been waiting for me. It is Bedouin culture to welcome any stranger and provide him with hospitality for 3 days without asking any questions.
Men here,
Yes,
a man here,
and woman here.
woman
Yes.
over there.
Yes, over
Okay.
there.
Can you show me?
Yes, yes.
All right.
People here.
All right. 아, 방이 다르구나.
Strangers cannot meet the women here. In fact, it is a rare thing to even show the women's tent to a stranger. Now the traditional guest welcoming begins. They roast and grind raw coffee beans and simmer them in the kettle, thus making Arabian coffee.
ثلاث فناجيل، الفنجان الأول للكيف، والثاني يقولوا للسيف، والثالث للهيث. وبعد ما يتمم يهز الفنجان.
The Bedouins think that tomorrow they could need the help of the stranger they welcome today. In the unpredictable desert, their situation could change any time, so they welcome strangers.
شو هذا؟ شو؟
صبرية.
أنا بدي أشوف.
حياك الله بحرة.
ممكن؟
14-year-old Nashir is known as Papa. It is the title given to the next tribe leader. The knife shows that Nashir is the successor to that position.
هو بس يجي على البر يلبسها. لو جينا رجل نذبح له ذبيحة بس ما يعني دائما ظل في البيت. بس هو يوم انه يجي على البر.
아드님이 칼을 저한테 채워주려고.
The Bedouin man puts the knife belt on me, but he says that there is something I must do when wearing the knife. Was he trying to test my courage? I was taken aback. For a brief moment, I could feel the weight that the Bedouin knife carried.
모든 도구는 그 도구의 쓰임을 가장 잘 할 수 있는 사람이 있는 것 같습니다. 전 아닌 것 같고요. 특히 저 칼만큼은 제가 주인이 아닌 것 같네요.
We are deep within the desert. There is no electricity, water, or bathroom. But I see a 4x4. The Bedouin explains that it is used to transport barrels. What is inside the barrels? It is water, which is crucial for their survival. The Bedouins bring in the water they need to support the community every 2 days.
الناس القدامى كانوا يجيبوها من السدود والينابيع. وجلالة الملك يعني وفر لنا المية وهسه صار لنا آبار.
The Bedouin are very happy that they were able to solve the problem of their water supply. Their gratitude comes from having lived a simple life in the desert for a long time. Walking a little way out of the desert leads to the grasslands. There is enough grass here for them to feed their sheep. Water flows somewhere in this dry land, enough for flowers to bloom. The life forms of this desert live for another day, accepting life as it is. The hot sand is cooled down. It is already dark when it is time to eat dinner. The hospitality shown during the day continues on through the evening. The Bedouin can only start eating once their guest has.
간이 있네요.
There are 5 families in this village. They are all related to each other. The male adults, who bear a certain resemblance to each other, are brothers, and the children are cousins. When these boys grow up and start a family, the village will become bigger.
공동체의식 굉장히 좋아서
다 같이 모여서 식사하는 것들이 그게 너무 좋고요. 지금 저희가 어떻게 보면 가족들끼리 식사하는 일이 많이 없어졌는데 한편으로 너무나 좋습니다.
Adults and children eat at different tables, and the children wait until it is their turn to drink. They eat only as much food as they need. But what do they do with the leftovers? The Bedouin man and children head somewhere with the dishes.
رايحين على البيت احنا الحين. بدنا نعطيها النسوان عشان يحطوا منه ويغطوا اللي صالح.
The women eat separately after the men and children have finished eating. It is Bedouin tradition.
هذا مش تمييز عنصري، هذا اسمه حرية عشان كل واحد ياخذ راحته يعني. حتى النسوان تاخذ راحتها في الاكل ما تستحي ولا اي شيء، يكون الناس ماخذ راحتها في الاكل ترتاح وهي قاعده، لانه اذا كان رجال عندها صعب تقعد، لازم احنا في ديننا وفي اسلامنا ليش اسمه الحياء.
Islam forms the background of Bedouin life. The Bedouin refresh their hearts 5 times a day through prayers.
حاليا الآن آخر صلاة صلاة العشاء على الساعة 8:05. الله أكبر.
The village leader bows down towards Mecca after determining the direction through the stars.
الله أكبر.
The Bedouin firmly believe that Allah will come to their humble tents in the desert. Usually, it would be time for all to sleep, but tonight there is a welcoming festival for me. The headlights of the 4x4 create the stage. They can have fun with just a beam of light. Music and dance allow the Bedouin and strangers to communicate with each other in ways not possible through words. Music and dance create a deep understanding of the emotions of others.
أنت الآن بدك تعبر عن العرس أو مناسبة حلوة بالرقص وكذا. في ناس يرقصوا وفي ناس كذا، بس إحنا هذه تراث تبعنا.
الأغنية اللي عند البدو.
هذه فرحتنا.
يعني هاي الأغنية تبعتهم. ما في لا عود ولا طبلة ولا شيء. الدحية.
Dehe is a dance anybody can easily learn. It seems that happiness can be gained as easily as clapping. Tonight I decided to set up my tent next to the Bedouin tent. The children are interested in my tent.
أنا ساكن في هون.
I brought a tent without a bottom by mistake, and a Bedouin man kindly lent me his carpet.
아, 너무 고맙네요. 자기들도 인원수가 많아가지고 남을지는 않을 텐데 아직 밤에는 굉장히 춥거든요.
I also received a guest in Bedouin style. Nashar is the first guest to visit my tent. The animals, with their natural biorhythm, wake me up in the morning. I open my eyes to the busy movement outside. The goats and sheep are getting ready to graze. It is a long walk to the grassland. But it is only the fully grown goats and sheep that can go grazing. The lambs and kids remain in the village. The village leader drives them up the perilous mountainside.
야, 니네 암종이 연습하는 것 같다, 야.
الصغير هذا بيولد، بس يولد بيقعد لمدة شهرين ونص، شهرين وهو في البيت. بعد شهرين ونص نبلش أول يوم نص أولا لغاية الظهر يعني.
The herd needs to go a long way to reach the grassland. But the kids fall asleep in the middle and lose their mothers. That is why they are being trained on the cliffs to grow their strength.
عربي.
لا 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 صوت
صوت؟
ايوه صوت.
Do the kids really only understand Arabic? I don't know if the Arabic part is true, but 8-year-old Mustafa is learning hard to take care of the kids and lambs. It is necessary training for nomads. The kids and Mustafa will be able to travel to the far-off grasslands soon. Like Nashar here.
أنا بدي شو أشوف
هذا مية هاي لفة جاي مثل شاي وكاسات
كري
أيوة.
Nashar has brought food to last him until the evening.
خبز.
Not long ago, he was given the job of taking care of the cattle and rationing food. His teacher is the village leader.
وتسوي شاي وتسوي أكل والعصر ترجعوه من غاد تروى الخشب هذاك من الخشب تخلوهم ترجع ديروا بالكم عليه لا ينام تفقدوهم كل ساعة ساعتين تفقدوهم.
The livestock wander around looking for abundant grass to eat. Now we just need to wait patiently for time to pass. There is an interesting sight created by the wind. It is the best lookout in the desert.
돌로 이루어진 이 산들인데 이 중앙에 바람 때문에 쌓여진 모래 언덕이 있네요.
The sandy mounds stacked in between the rock mountains will disappear again someday with the wind. And it will flow off into the desert somewhere to create another mysterious shape. But for now, it serves as a great slide for the children to play on.
내려가려고 하니까 푹푹 파여서 몸이 안으로 들어가기만 하지 경사가 심해도 절대 위험하지 않아요.
The children do not seem to tire. They go up and down the slope, riding the sand. The Bedouin do not try to gain anything from the desert. It is simply the natural backdrop of life to them. It was only when I was saying goodbye to them that I realized why the Bedouin were the owners of the desert. The next part of my journey remains with the desert. The sandy wind beckoned me back into the past. Jordan's desert is still rich in treasures yet to be excavated. Hidden under the sand mounds and between rocks, they wait for someone to find them. What would it feel like to stumble upon a treasure in the middle of the desert? Such a thing happened 200 years ago. This is Petra, the remains of an ancient Nabatean city.
쭉 가는 길마다 한 걸음만 걸음 촛불이 길을 안내해 주는 것 같아서 무슨 이상한 나라 앨리스 그런 느낌이 들어요. 기분이 아주 동심으로 돌아간 것처럼 좋습니다.
Petra had lain asleep in the desert for 1,600 years, when Swiss explorer Johann Ludwig Burckhardt rediscovered it and made it known to the world. Both the Silk Road and the King's Highway passed by here. Petra was where weary Arabian merchants took rest during their travels. Early the next morning, I set out to visit Petra again.
해가 계곡 이 절벽을 비출 때마다 빛나는 그런 아침의 느낌을 담고 싶어서 들어왔는데요. 예, 작은 빛들이 비출 때마다 상당히 색깔의 변화가 신비롭고 아름다워서요.
After walking for about 2 kilometers, the view opened up. This is the entrance to Petra, the Al-Qazneh. The ancient Nabateans' beautiful greeting slowly unfolds before my eyes. Petra means rock in Greek. The Nabateans carved out a city in the mountain, and this building was the one that excited archaeologists.
Why they called it Al-Khazna? Because the people, the local people, thought there is some gold in the top of the treasury, and that's why they, long time ago, they shot by guns, machine guns. They want to proc in this top, and they shot a lot of times, and there is nothing falling down.
The treasure was nowhere to be found, but tourists pour in from across the world to see Al-Qazneh.
Absolutely fantastic. It's amazing. Never seen before.
Which one do you think better, the camel ride or lion ride?
This one. Absolutely.
The purpose of all the buildings in Petra have yet to be ascertained, but these are thought to be tombs. They were built during the early period of Petra by digging small caves into the mountainside.
정이나 이런 것들을 쳐서 약간의 흔적들이 있고요. 굉장히 정교하지는 못해서 우퉁우퉁한 것들을 볼 수가 있어요.
The patterns become more refined with time. The tombs made later are straight. The treasure hunters must have been disappointed to find the buildings, so fancy on the outside, empty inside. The Nabateans tried to recreate the unseen spiritual world here. It is very difficult to understand what they wanted to express.
지금 법원이라고 알려져 있던 유적지에 와 있습니다. 예, 이것도 결국 무덤이라고 밝혀졌는데요. 모양으로 보기에는 일반 관공서나 이런 건축물처럼 굉장히 아름답고요. 굉장히 웅장하고 화려합니다.
Unlike constructing a building from the bottom up, carving out a building does not allow for any mistakes because modifications are impossible. The Nabateans must have cut the cliff carefully over a long period of time. The expectations and hopes they must have felt in carving a city out of rock are still to be found etched in these delicate lines.
과거 나바티아인들이 현재 정이라고 하는 그 못과 같이 생긴 그 장비로 찍어서 만들었다고 하는데 이 결이 굉장히 일정하고요. 무슨 최근에 있는 기계 같은 장비로 만든 것처럼 굉장히 균일합니다.
The Nabatean civilization crumbled under the weight of the attacks of Rome and the Byzantine Empire. Merchants no longer passed by when the Eastern Roman Empire moved the center of trade to Palmyra. And the Nabateans disappeared from history not long afterwards. But Petra dreams of revival through these small glass bottles of sand.
You can see the stones. These stones, they are natural. They came from this rock, small pieces. I crush it until when they be a powder, like this is this color. That's how they're gonna be this color. Then I bring many color and then I draw the camel, the bird, the flower.
The sandstone that had been used by the Nabateans is turned into colorful sand, which then becomes pictures as it is poured into these bottles. The tools are simple. They are a funnel and a spoon.
That's mean because they're gonna be the color around, step by steps.
Inside the bottle, the Arabian merchants roam the desert, riding their camels once again. I decided to take a bottle telling an old story with me.
This color, they remind you like the color of Petra. Because Petra, if you look to the mountain, you can see the same color, the one in the bottle, in the sand bottle, like the color in Petra in the mountains.
A miniature Petra is created. Now I am the owner of the desert. The British poet Dean Burgon called Petra a rose-red city half as old as time. The rose-red city is waiting for the return of its owner, who once ruled over the desert. On the other side of the desert, Nabateans, Arabian merchants, and Bedouins herding large flocks of sheep still seem to be roaming the land. Is it a mirage? I carefully capture the scenery through my lens.